We're live. Welcome to the Deal Champs Pod. We have the Master of Hair back with the hair out. We got Captain America back with the 13th child. We got Mr. Strat Daddy back, ready to roll. Donald Trump is in office. We got lots of things to discuss today. Captain America didn't wear the socks. Actually, the Master of Hair has the socks on today to represent America with the skinny jeans on. Look at that. Look at that.
Pull up Carolina jeans up anymore.
Calves are too fucking big to pull up all the way, bro.
We are back.
We're back. 100% bonus depreciation is back, bitches.
Hell yeah.
No more taxes. Let's go.
Hey, if we got the no taxes, how would that boost the economy? So much more money in the economy rather than being potentially wasted on government.
I think it has to go. Well, it has to be in combination with Doge actually cutting, because the tariffs are going to be inflationary no matter what anybody says, because people are going to have to raise the prices in order to make margin. You know what I'm saying? And so you're going to have a bunch of stuff right there. And so, but if you get rid of the IRS and we no longer have to stress about being audited,
dude, how amazing would that be? I get too excited.
Oh, baby. Bring back 100% bonus depreciation. Get rid of the IRS. Release my fucking ERC money, damn it. Let's go. Let's fucking go. All right. Real quick, my name is Stratton Brown, a.k.a. Strat Daddy, one of your co-hosts. Dino, can you make sure to get these in the Facebook groups?
Going and doing it now, yeah.
I have built 2 different companies to 7 figures, and we own a 7-figure real estate portfolio. Right now, we're on a journey to net 7 figures wholesale on houses. I got started in real estate with absolutely zero life skills, only played football my entire life, and being able to enter real estate helped me make 6 figures actually in my first year, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. When I broke off from Allen, I made 6 figures in 6 months. That's an insane trajectory. If you wanted to get into real estate, we're going to share everything we know about real estate and much, much more. We have the Master of Hair joining us, Mr. Jason Prichard, with the socks on.
Brought the hair out in honor of the election. I brought the socks out in honor of the election. Again, I'm going to flash them to people that just signed on. Happy. Thank you guys for joining us today. Everybody that's joining on my IG and on Facebook. Backstory on me: worked in corporate America for 15 years. Hated my job. Was unhappy with my life. And I wanted to do real estate. We burned all the boats in 2014. Have not looked back since. We got 500 deals under our belt. We own a rental portfolio with just north of 100 units. And like we always say on this podcast is we want you guys to learn from all of our mistakes. We want you guys to get as much valuable feedback and experience so you can shortcut this process. And today should be a good pod. Lots of interesting topics, lots of positive sentiment and excitement in the air. And I think there's going to be some cool changes that are going to create some good opportunities for everybody that's paying attention. So should be a good one.
And we have the actual Donald Trump Jr., Mr. Captain America.
If you guys didn't see that podcast episode, you got to go back and watch it. There was a full-on Donald Trump impersonation that was to basically drop a new nickname Strat Daddy put on me, which I hated. So I earned back Captain America. So glad to be here, guys. For those that don't know me, my story is I started my career in the NFL. Then I transitioned to corporate and then found my way into real estate. Been doing that for over 10 years now in Central California. We've done over 700 deals, have an 8-figure rental portfolio, and coaching students how to get started in real estate with wholesaling. You guys can always connect with me at deanrogers.com.
All right. What's the first topic you want to cover? You want to cover deportation? I think that one is the one that probably affects Central California the most.
Yeah.
And what it'll do to the real estate market and construction prices. I think everybody here has worked with someone who is an immigrant. I know Kalani's family is immigrants. There's immigrants all over the state of California, and I think the backbone of California is immigrants. So I think the deportation
is
the backbone of America. But I would say now more California is like upheld by immigrant. I mean, with the farming industry alone, bro, immigrants is what holds up California. So I necessarily don't think it should be like handled with an iron fist, because you're going to have rising food prices due to labor shortages. You're going to have delayed food. You're going to have rising construction prices, all these things, and it'll take years to see a deflationary effect with this. That's just my opinion. Overall, it's probably for the best, but it's going to be an absolute monster of a problem to solve.
I was listening to the All In Pod yesterday, actually, and one of the hosts on there was talking about some of the concerns that are happening in ag, and they're expecting potentially a 3x increase, I think, in labor cost alone because of the not the influx, but the outgoing labor that's going, right? So they're expecting, whatever it costs to farm whatever crop you're farming, 3 times as more just in labor costs, and that's probably a huge component of whatever it costs to farm that stuff. So all of that is going to trickle down to us. I also think that you're going to see that in the housing market. I don't expect labor to 3x for us. I know, Dean, you flipped a lot of houses. Stratton, you've done a ton. We have. It's hard for me to imagine, the cost of installing flooring or paint or those other things to double or triple, but I absolutely do think it potentially constricts the supply of labor, and who you work with is important. So you have to make sure, if you are in a business where you're doing a lot of remodeling and you have contractors, you need to make sure you're out in front of this stuff, because if you're not accounting for these increased costs on your projects when you're making offers, and let's say you buy something without double checking with your contractor, then you run them through your project, you could be seeing an increase in what you're paying in labor to do that, and that could screw up your pricing. So you got to be careful for that type of stuff for sure.
Now that I think about it, I think it's going to be really inflationary with tariffs and this combined. It'll be huge in some aspects of it. Go ahead.
Explain quickly, because I think this is important, right? I think Trump is talking a lot about the tariffs. I don't necessarily disagree with them, but the idea behind it is, let's say we're importing building materials from a place like China, right?
Yeah.
And then they put a tariff on the lumber or the granite. Like, we get a lot of granite, like those types of materials, I think, from China, right? I know from the granite suppliers that we work with, we get that, right? It's going to cost the supplier more money. I'm not an expert on tariffs, right? But it isn't like China fits the bill. It's like the person that's importing it. Is that the correct way to look at it?
Yeah. So his whole thing is like, hey, America made a bunch of its money from tariffs, from charging other countries to do business with us, and we didn't tax the hell out of all of our citizens. But at the same time, in business, and we've talked about this all the time, when regulation steps in, usually the consumer is the one who has to foot the bill. Like, someone else is going to pay for the pound of flesh that company needs to stay profitable, to keep supplying the marketplace with the goods and services. So you're still going to see an inflationary thing with, if everybody gets Mexico, China, and Canada all get 25% tariffs placed on them for all the goods that they import. And so with that, on top of our, essentially, I'd say a third of California's labor could get cut. Let's say for incoming jobs or whatever else, like low-paying jobs, especially agricultural-wise. I bet you it's closer to 50%. You're going to have a lot of, what would the word be? Basic goods and services, food and everything else skyrocketing for the near future, because we still import food as well, not only in the Central California, we still import food from other countries. And so you're going to have that mix of everything else driving up prices. It'll take a while to stabilize. And then when the tariffs are there, okay, now the idea is we can disband the IRS or cut it down a decent amount and then have it only be X amount as long as spending is in control. So now that spending is there.
That, though. Yeah. So the ramp up period is going to be painful, I feel like, for everybody.
It's going to be, I think it'll be extremely painful.
Flipping houses. If your granite supplier was paying $300 per slab of granite and there's a 25 or 30% tariff or whatever the number is, I've heard big numbers get tossed out, but let's say it's 30%.
That's your margin.
That slab of granite now costs $390, and they're not going to eat that. The granite supplier is not just going to make $90 less on that slab. That slab of granite just went up by $90 to you. And if you're doing 100 houses, all of that adds up, especially when you look at all the line items on your bid that end up coming over. It's not just granite. It's the, whatever, cabinets, kitchen sinks, light fixtures, appliances, all of that stuff that's getting made. That's real increased cost there. And then that increased cost to the investor, probably we're not going to eat that. We're going to try to float that into a higher sales price on the house. So it always trickles down to the consumer, in my opinion, right? So I think we're going to try to pass that on as much as we can. But yeah, I do think that there's going to be some things that there's going to be a painful period that we go through some of this transition, and people are just going to have to live with it. It's not all going to be easy, I think, at the beginning.
What are your thoughts, Dino?
So two topics there: tariffs and deportation. I'll start with deportation. This is my belief. Okay. Could be wrong here, but in the past 4 years, with our prior president and all of the border security issues that have been discussed over and over and over again. And we saw, proof that there was millions and millions of people coming over that shouldn't, right? Immigration is an important part of America's history, and I think it's important that that continues to happen, but it's got to be the right people. And I think where all of this became an issue is, it just being wide open and anybody and everybody coming, and many of the wrong people coming. So that, in my opinion, and again, I could be wrong here, is that if we look at prior to the past 4 years, when there wasn't a border security issue, I feel like the people that were working those jobs, the labor jobs, are still here, right? They didn't go anywhere. If anything, there was probably more people that came over to create a labor supply overage, right? There was a surplus of labor, and maybe the cost of labor as a result could have gone down. I don't have any data to support that, but supply and demand for labor, if there's an excess of supply of labor, in theory, the cost of labor should go down. So did we see labor costs go down over the past 4 years? No. If anything, we saw them go up. Costs of materials, costs of labor over the past 4 years have done nothing but go up. We've been an inflationary, type of economy. So do I think if there's a mass deportation and exodus of people that came across that shouldn't have, do I think there's going to be a shortage of labor and then therefore an increase in labor costs? I personally don't. I think the people already providing the labor are here. I don't think that there's going to be a shortage. And in fact, I believe, I know the news is trying to spin the whole deportation as, oh, if anybody is here without a U.S. citizenship or without a green card, they're going to get deported. Look, there's already a millions and millions of people that check that box who have been living here for decades. So do I think all those people are magically going to be scooped up and dropped off on the other side of the borders? I don't think so. I think it's going to be more of a hunt of people that are committing crimes, who create new crimes, realize they're not a citizen, and then, hey, you're out of here then. I think that's what is going to take place. So I don't think there's going to be a huge shortage of supply. I don't think there's going to be a huge increase in labor costs. And so that's my opinion on labor and deportation. Now, when it goes to tariffs, I mean, I don't know enough about tariffs to know who ends up footing the bill, whether it's the consumer or not. But I know that the intent is to, hey, we've been paying China all this money and they've been making hand over fist on everything. Why don't we have them pay for bringing their goods and services over here? Now, you can't help but believe if a supplier is being charged more, they're gonna hand that off, right? They're not gonna take a haircut. But we'll see how that plays out, because if tariffs are across the board, and you got to look at supply and demand at that point, and how does that determine whether there is or not an increase in the.
I mean, this isn't a little tariff, is what it is.
No.
For me. Like 25-30%, bro. That is majority of businesses' margin, or double their margin if you're like a supply house. Supply houses run on 10% margins to 5% margins.
Yep.
To where I think that's where it gets interesting, to where I think the prices will go up. I think the tariffs go hand in hand with like the TikTok ban. And me and Jason talked about this, to where 100%, I think it's, full disclosure, I think it's the greatest app ever created by mankind. It is a bottomless death pit, to where if you download it and you start scrolling, you're never getting off, bro. It is the best app ever. Better than TV, better than video games, everything. But if it 100% got banned, bipartisan by everybody in Congress, then obviously it's a spy software, whatever it is, like they're spying on the American people. And so that goes into like the same reciprocation and relationship. Like, hey, if we can't have Facebook, there's no Google in China, there's no Facebook in China, I don't think there's any Twitter in China.
Really?
Then they're like, hey, you guys can't have TikTok, essentially is what it is, with reciprocation. And so he's going to do the same thing with the tariffs. If we're going to be doing business, we want equal opportunity. I do think with the TikTok thing, I want it to get completely disbanded. And I was telling Jason this because we're going to hop on the next big fucking TikTok wave and we're going to be superstars. Because as soon as TikTok goes away, someone's going to launch a new one and we got to hop on that wave. And then, we missed the wave 4 years ago is what it was, I think. Some of our friends hopped on it. Like, I think Tommy, who's been on here, Austin for sure did. A couple people hopped on it, and now Austin can raise as much money as he wants. Like, he could start a fund tomorrow and be pretty solid, to where I think that's where the opportunity would be if TikTok does fully get disbanded.
I'm not as emotional about the TikTok ban because I don't use it. It's a complete time suck for me. So I deleted
I had to get rid of it
because
I had to get rid of it.
It just ends up being a spiral of scrolling and just non-productivity. So I don't use it. I agree. I think it would create other opportunities for growth on other platforms. So it'd be cool to see what goes on. Let me ask you this. Would you be indifferent if it were IG, for example, and IG got banned and it was in the same position? I know that that's not there, but because neither of us, it doesn't sound like the three of us use TikTok very much.
No,
I'm kind of like whatever about it
because
it doesn't matter to me. But now, we get lots of engagement, garner a lot of attention, do lots of different things with like our Instagram. And so I feel like if it were something that was a platform that we were using more, I think I would feel a different type of way about it.
I would be pissed.
Yeah.
I'd be fucking pissed. There'd be something. I know that there's something else that would have to come out, but I'd be fucking pissed because like we get so much reach. And Jason, we talked about this for both of us. If I could give up one thing in life, it would be social media. But my income is directly tied to social media, whether or not I want to talk about our companies, raise money. It's honestly Facebook and Instagram are like my two biggest levers I can pull. And then we have like email. Yep. So if that did go away, that would suck. Like there's tons of TikTokers who are random creators or affiliate marketers.
I would feel IG. So when you put that in perspective like that, if TikTok was your IG, like our IGs, bro, and it just went bye-bye, like that is a huge miss. Like I would feel that would hurt.
That would hurt. But then go ahead, Jason.
No, I was just going to say, I know tons of people in the real estate business, agents or investors or otherwise, and even outside of that, like people that have established like actual businesses. This is how they provide for their families, right? And, to have it go away like that, I think sucks. It would suck. And it would suck for me too, if it's IG. But it feels like Trump brought it back, right? Or they did something because my wife sent me a screenshot. And I'm assuming he forced him to do this, but he said, thanks to President Trump.
Yeah. Yes. Like, hey, you want it back? I want propaganda to every single person.
So you know who got your TikTok.
So what happens? There's an extra 75 days. I think it's 75 days that they're bringing it back to enable the opportunity for a buyer to come in and make it U.S. owned. So that's what's happening. I believe after the 75 days, if nothing happens, nothing gets agreed upon, then it will go back to being shut off. But as of right now, I believe it's getting turned back on for 75 days.
Interesting.
I think Kevin O'Leary's plan, and Jason, you should explain that, makes the most sense when you want, because guys, we're in the deal making business, and Kevin O'Leary, I think, had a good idea for a fund in a deal making proposition. I don't think Elon should have it just for like monopoly reasons. I think it'd be crazy.
I was watching on Eddie Wilson's page, I think they had Kevin O'Leary come speak for the Aspire Tour. They were recording some backstage content, and they were basically recording a conversation that O'Leary and Wilson were having together. And essentially, Kevin O'Leary said he is going to go to all of these creators. They're going to build a fund and allow them to deposit or invest X amount of dollars. I don't know what the cap was on there to raise the necessary money to go in and then make an offer on TikTok. And it seems like it makes sense. I also saw something yesterday that Mr. Beast was going to make an offer. I saw something about Elon making an offer. The other thing that I heard on All In yesterday when I was listening to it was Chamath was talking about basically saying that whoever buys this is not paying anywhere close to fair market value, right? They're basically saying, look, here's the price. Bro. This is the buy it now price, right? And I don't care what you think this is worth, but it's not going to be worth anything in 75 days once the government pulls the plug on this. So here's what I'm willing to pay. And he was basically talking up like the potential upside and how big of a win it's going to be for whoever picks this up, because they're going to get it for, I think he said pennies on the dollar, which could be true because with all this oversight, you don't really have that type of leverage. So whoever does it is going to get a good deal on it. I think that for sure. And I think if they're allowed, I think a lot of it will be dependent on whether they're allowed to stay on the actual platform or they're going to have to move to some other platform. Because he talked about different options where it's like,
Sure.
hey, we'll let you keep all your videos. We'll let you keep your account, but it all has to, like if Elon bought, we're going to move everything over to X. So we'll just basically work out some transfer over there. I don't know if that's as valuable as
That's not
staying
nearly as
on
valuable.
TikTok. I don't think so either. Right. So
Because
it's gonna
like
be
you have the habit.
interesting to see if they let them keep the actual app or they make you do some kind of hybrid in between, but somebody's going to get a good deal.
And the CCP said they didn't want to sell the algorithm. They said they'd sell the users, but they wouldn't sell the algorithm. And I think it's worthless without the algorithm.
Yeah.
Because like
the algorithm
Reels is nowhere near. Yeah.
Yeah. The algorithm is what, again, another thing that Chamath was talking about on All In is like he read some research paper on how crazy that algorithm is and like what they did to differentiate it from something like IG that makes it so addictive and keeps you on the app, right? And so if that goes away, then I don't know if the value is really there. I mean, that's the main reason, honestly, why I deleted it, because it was just
It's so good, bro.
It'd be like 3 hours of like, what the hell did I just do? And it was just nothing, just completely random stuff. And I was like, this is dangerous. I was like, I need to delete this. And I was like, I'm not getting on here. So I never went down that rabbit hole.
Dean, you have any input on this?
Yeah, for TikTok, I think that the value, let's just put it in perspective of the real estate market. I think that there's a tremendous amount of people in the real estate industry that are using TikTok for business. So I think for TikTok to go away is going to hurt a lot of people. I think it's going to allow opportunities for other people to step in while some of these people are losing some of their market share. And that's how the world works. There's always going to be changes that happen. We have to pivot. We have to adjust, no matter how painful or how difficult it is. There's always going to be new rules, laws, and regulations that change the game and change things. So as much as it hurts, that's your opportunity. That's your opportunity to lean in to the suck, to the things that hurt, the things that are difficult, swimming upstream, that are going to create your own opportunity, because there's going to be people that aren't willing to do it. So I think it sucks. And when we put it in the perspective of what if it was IG? What if it was Facebook? I mean, that does leave a mark. That's painful.
All that work, dude.
All that
work.
Think about all of our organic stuff.
Oh.
But this goes into the point, though, to why we collect so many emails. You have to control your audience and collect the emails. If you don't own the email, you don't own the customer, because email is the hardest thing for them to block from you. Social media, they can rip it away.
Not just email, bro. And we're honestly a really good example of this. So I'm going to give the three of us a pat on the back, because our approach to this, I think, speaks directly towards what Dean was talking about not putting all our eggs in one single platform's basket. So not only do we do social media, IG, Facebook, those type of things, right? We also do in person, the grassroots, the organic stuff. That's really hard. But one of the reasons why I think we've gotten the engagement that we have is we've been putting in so much work, like doing this old school grassroots effort to really build an actual community in our marketplace, right? Like if we just switched over to another platform, I think we could bring a lot of that audience that's used to us there. And to your point, Strat, you do get emails, you do get text, so you can do all these different types of marketing, and all of it. When we were driving up to Stockton, you said it's like a web, dude. And all the things kind of go together. You've got to do the social, you've got to do the free meetups, you got to do the big events, you've got to fly around and speak at other things, you've got to eat, you got to do all of this, and you've got to do all of it good in case one of those legs of that stool gets chopped out from underneath you. So you've got to really be committed, and it's got to be a long-term thing. Think about how fucking long we've been doing this, and it's not like it's because it's like all these like crazy, we're not like major influencers like making money off Insta. At least I'm not, you know what I'm saying? So it's like you do all this work And it's very much a long game, dude. Like even you and I were talking when we were driving back from Stockton. I was like, dude, we probably have to do this approach that we have now for 7 to 10 more years to really get to where we want to go, dude. So this is like a long-term commitment that we have because we've got so much time and energy invested. You can't really pull the plug now, and you've got a long way to go still, man. So it's a well-rounded, comprehensive approach that you got to take. It can't just be one thing.
And for people watching this who are like, I want to grow my social media and like be an influencer-ish, the number one thing that we still have to do is keep operating companies at the same fucking time, or else your relevance is worthless. You could be as big on social media as you want, but you have no credibility in the marketplace if you aren't building shit, which is the other thing you have to think about, like balancing. We do all these things. Just on Saturday, me and Jason pulled like a 12-hour day, 13-hour day to go speak at a meetup for like 7 hours. Ate a ton of sushi. Shout out the boys. Great sushi, by the way.
Was it good?
And brothers. Yeah, it was good.
Oh,
I saw the text message. I was like, oh, sushi, man. Now I got super FOMO. I'm like, dang.
Yeah.
it.
The sushi was great. The sushi was great. But I mean, bro, we hopped back in. We got back at like 7. Jason dropped me off at a restaurant. I went to dinner with my family, and then I had to go home. And I went to sleep.
Yeah.
Like it was an all-day thing. And then we'll do that multiple times over the next couple months. And run the companies. So at least that way we're credible.
Yep. It's a lot, dude. It's a big commitment.
Jason, give a shout out to the boys though. The boys.
Yeah. Shout out to the Kinder boys, Amanjot, PJ, Karin, all up in Stockton. They did a great job with the meetup, dude. If you guys are wanting to connect with some serious real estate people in Northern California, connect with the Kinder brothers, man. They're legit people.
It was awesome. We had a great turnout. Dean got the FaceTime in. You got to say a little bit of hi. He had a little bit of FOMO.
I had major FOMO.
And I met a number 2. One of the dudes there was the number 2 slalom skier in the world at a point in time.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
I thought that was pretty dope.
That is cool.
All right. You guys ready to talk about insurance and fires and what could possibly happen there? All right. So I want to get David Tongapa on here. I don't know if you guys saw my friend David, who ran for state assembly. The number one thing that he ran on was that if Central California doesn't prevent wildfires, the real estate market will collapse. And that was like his whole thing, because he has Mariposa, like Shaver, and all that stuff up there.
Those mountain properties, yeah.
He's like up in those mountains, and he has like some of Fresno. And his whole thing was, if the fires affect all of the real estate market in Central California, the insurance companies will have no choice but to go bankrupt. They're going to pull out and go bankrupt, and then mortgage companies will not be able to insure, and then the prices will just continually drop because you have to buy stuff with cash. So essentially, it cause a full-fledged real estate market crash.
I want to ask you guys a question, and I saw this, and I'm curious to hear what your opinion is. So I'm going to give you some context about like the insurance market right now, because I think this is really important. So I was, again, just through all the fires and stuff that was happening, I didn't realize how insurance worked, at least at this level. So at every state, there's a commission that runs insurance. That state commission is in charge of making sure insurance is available to homeowners, right? But also making sure that the insurance providers are not gouging those same homeowners and running the price up, right? Mm-hmm. So a big reason why a lot of the insurance companies have been pulling out, like in California recently in the last year, maybe 2 years, we've been seeing a lot of these big insurance companies exit, is because they're like, look, all these catastrophic events are happening. We cannot insure at these price points and still remain solvent. So we're either going to have to raise prices, or we're going to have to pull out and just opt not to do it. So then California Fair Plan, which I think we've all heard of, is like the state-funded, state-run insurance policy that doesn't have a great reputation. And Fair Plan is the only option sometimes in these high-risk areas, right? Like these mountain areas or in SoCal. And Fair Plan, and I don't know exactly what numbers are true, but I've heard Fair Plan is solvent up to a few $100 million. And in the Palisades, just the Palisades, they've got $6 billion worth of exposure just there on stuff that they insured that's down. So right then and there, you tell you something is going to have to give, right? So what do you guys, I'm curious to hear what your guys' opinion is. Do you just let the free market be the free market, and you let that insurance rate float? And if it's got to go up, it's got to go up, and people are going to pay. And you have the ramifications of higher insurance. If insurance prices doubled or tripled, I think that's probably going to have a negative or downward effect on
Yeah, it's
housing.
gonna
So
have a
do you just let
deflationary
the free
effect on
market
housing.
be a free market, or do you feel like it's better for regulatory agencies like the commission step in and try to manufacture or keep that price at a different place in the name of affordability? What do you guys think?
I think the obvious answer just happened to where you had to have let the free market take care of itself because of California real estate market has essentially been falsely propped up in that area. Because the market would dictate like, hey, these properties aren't worth that much due to exposure. Because you can't have a mortgage on a house without insurance. We can't buy anything without insurance unless you're buying it cash. Like, hey, I'm waiving it. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Right. And so unless there's going to be a bunch of cash transactions and I know there's a lot of wealthy people, but there's a fuck ton of really expensive real estate in the Palisades to where most people who are smart with money aren't going to want to drop that much cash into a property and do that. So I think 100%, bro, the free market should have dictated it. It would have been deflationary. That's okay. But at least they would have been solvent. They could have got some money back and everything else. Because now I don't see anybody really getting any money back over there. Like some of these people are super rich. They won't be necessarily super affected. But still, bro, you're taking on these Malibu houses on the beach. Well, you're taking a $40 million fucking haircut that's gone.
Oh,
you cannot build that again. It's
not even just the house, dude. I mean, the cost of construction. Most people honestly are probably underinsured just in the replacement cost of the house.
Exactly.
But the other thing is art, jewelry, cars, like all the other
crypto
stuff that cost a ton, dude.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And these type of houses.
How do you even if you didn't go spend and get all that stuff recently appraised and all that, no chance you're getting anything close to what the value of those things are worth. You know what I'm saying? So it's this crazy situation. It's shitty for everybody, but yeah, I don't know. Do you think let the free market float it and let the price end up being whatever it's going to be? Or do you think there needs to be some type of stop there on the price?
Yeah. So I think what's happened is catastrophic. I think it's extremely disruptive to everything. And I think there's going to be a massive downstream effect. To answer your question, I think there's got to be some sort of regulation because otherwise it could be out of control. However, with that said, how can you tell an insurance company who is on the hook for billions of dollars of payouts
you can't raise your fucking prices, bro?
that
They
you
have
can't raise your
models that
prices?
model this out
Yeah.
every year. It's not like they're a bunch of stupid people.
Yeah.
These are extensive formulas that determine, just like the people who give life insurance, right? None of these prices are by mistake, and that's why a lot of them exited California because of all the the issues we've been having here. So I think that if we want to have more insurance options, then it's got to be more of a free market. And I believe that will bring prices down without question.
If you kept it really free and you let good companies come in, then it would compete itself down and eliminate the margins like we talk about.
It does.
It would eliminate the margins and it would eventually deflate. But if you wanted to semi-regulate it and you only let a handful of people do it, that keeps prices up because it's like a oligopoly or whatever. To where it's a certain amount of companies in there, to where if it's a true free market, the companies are checked out, these companies are good. Someone is always willing to make a buck for cheaper. Someone's always willing to render the service for cheaper.
And the price will shoot up and competition will force it back down to what the true free market value is. That's right.
Here's what's got to happen for this to work and for California not to get annihilated on prices is the government has to do, the government of California has to do what it should be doing to prevent these disasters from happening. The amount of money that we're spending on other things that we could have otherwise spent on preventing these disasters is obvious, and it's a glaring mistake and just a big miss on California. So if we can fix that problem, then it allows the insurance not to be a problem. and doesn't drive home prices down.
It's crazy that this is the thing that's so frustrating with me with politics. I don't ever like to get down the politics rabbit hole, but it's like mind-boggling to me. All of us, I would say, have gotten to where we're at right now to a certain extent by just modeling what other successful people do. You hear that word a lot, right? Like let's see what somebody else is doing and let me just model that behavior, right? And this way I don't got to just learn on my own or come up with a plan that isn't proven, right? And I'm sure that there are other areas in the world where there are highly susceptible to like these kind of fires where it's just managed better. And I just don't understand why somebody doesn't just go and say, look, what's working over here. These people have similar type of region, similar type of climate, similar type of winds, blah, 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 blah. But they're not going through these things over and over again. Like just in Central California, you've got like the Shaver Fire. You've got these mountain regions up in Northern California, the Paradise Fire. There's like this stuff happening all the time, dude. It's crazy
All the
that,
time.
yeah, like we it's not like we don't know that this is going to happen. Why don't you just model somebody else that's doing something better and get out in front of it so then we don't have these crazy catastrophic events that then cause all this damage, drive the prices up insurance. You're 100% right. It's a full circle thing on both sides.
And we are the fifth. California is the fifth largest economy in the world, by the way.
It's
like
wild.
right when the fires happened, California passed like Germany as far as like the fifth largest economy in the world. So essentially, Gavin Newsom is a president, like one of the most powerful people in the world is like being the governor of California with his control over GDP. But I look at our stuff up in Susanville. We had to fight for our fucking life to get insurance on that thing. And I don't even know now if we are going to get insurance renewed or if they're just going to pull it, because as you drive up, everything's good. As you drive out and you start going towards Chico, it is nothing but black for like hundreds of miles. Like the forest is gone. And it's as soon as you leave the town, the forest is gone and all you see is just black everywhere. And to where I think that's going to be really interesting. But Florida had the same thing happen with their hurricanes too at the same time. We do a lot of business in Florida, and we talk to a lot of people who say, I cannot afford my home insurance anymore, or I can't afford my reassessment on my HOA anymore, because the same thing's happening over there that's happening over here. Like, hey, there's way too many natural disasters, and they let them essentially raise their prices. And then you're going to see in the market, a bunch of people are going to move out. It's going to be deflationary on the prices, but then it'll come back to normal eventually.
I mean, and this is a thought, obviously, how is this type of stuff going to like ripple out, right? So you have a crazy catastrophic event like this happen in LA, but then it's going to create, you know, all these ripple effects in other markets. So like I posted about this because I'm doing this big land deal in Bakersfield, right? And so for me, I get questions a lot about like, man, isn't this risky? Isn't the housing market like highest that it's ever been? You know, aren't you worried about housing prices? And in my opinion, even though it doesn't feel like it for those of us that are from Central California or born here or been here our entire lives, California is still the most affordable part of California. The Valley is, right? So relative to everywhere else, you can still buy something relatively cheap. And things like that happen, create this move into some of these more affordable markets on top of like remote work and all the other things that are out there that are already causing some of this migration. So it's like for me in the long term, you know, I'm bullish on like markets like Central California where we invest, because I think there is going to continue to be demand because of stuff like this. It's crazy expensive to live in SoCal. You have stuff like this that's happening. You have high insurance costs that are going to be hard for everybody to keep up with. The economy is tough. Like we can just go and drive an hour and a half away to Bakersfield and buy a nicer house for half the price or a third of the price. You know what I mean? And so I think it creates these other opportunities in other markets for people that are paying attention.
Totally.
I'm heavy Central California as far as the market will only continue to go up. Yes, California has the most people leaving, but I bet you if we looked at like a net migration map, it's people moving from those two cities, like the Bay and LA, out and into the middle. I bet you is what you'd see if you saw like a net migration map. To where Central California is going to keep going up, keep growing. And if there isn't, and Jason, you'd know more than we would as far as like the politicians willing to work with you to like get new housing stock to market. If you can get enough new housing stock to market, it'll keep the market affordable is the biggest thing. If you can't get new housing stock to market, it's going to drive prices up again.
It's one of those things where the goal for the cities are aligned with, I think, investors in this particular case, because there's so much state and I think federal funding tied to meeting certain housing metrics. So there's downward pressure from the state government saying, hey, you need to bring on X amount of units of new housing, either rental or new construction each year. And if you don't meet this minimum requirement, we're going to take away this funding that we've set aside and we're going to give it to another city or county that is meeting that. Right. So again, like, show me the money and then, or show me an incentive and then I'll show you a result. Like, so here's an incentive, you know what I'm saying? And now our goal as an investor is aligned with the city. And that is where things actually work a little bit better. Now, there's less red tape, but obviously it's not going to happen as fast and like as it would in some other states. But I think in this particular instance, there's a need. And it's been interesting to see how that's worked for us, at least in the project that we're working on in Bakersfield. The city has been favorable to work with. And I think it's because we're fulfilling a need. And I think housing, for better or for worse, we're going to be short on housing for a very long time, dude. We are not going to be able to build our way out of this problem. There isn't going to be some influx of foreclosures. I think we're going to kind of stay in this space that we're in, where we're kind of like inventory's locked. I know and understand that in lots of places there's more and more inventory kind of coming online, but it's definitely not a surplus of inventory, and it's not enough to keep up with the demand of people that are either aging into an age range where they want to buy a house or coming from another market to buy more property here, like you're seeing in the Valley. So I think it all creates opportunities for people that are investing in those markets to capitalize and do well business wise.
You guys flip more than I do. Have you seen any like trend of ADUs in Central California? Because I feel like Central California is the only place where that isn't a trend. In the Bay, it's huge. In LA, it was huge, and you'd get actual value for them. To where out here, I haven't heard of anybody actually implementing ADUs and creating value and making some money.
I have thoughts, Dean. What are you guys doing? Any ADU stuff?
Here and there, very, very infrequent. In certain cases, it makes sense to maximize the potential if there's a large lot and we're just wanting to park some money into greater cash flow. But in general, from my perspective, I don't think there's a lot of people that are doing it in Central California. I know that in San Diego, there's definitely a lot of people that are focusing on it. Specifically, they're trying to increase density in places like San Diego, and allowing people to convert garages, shed pretty much. The requirements for the lot setbacks and everything are pretty loose because they're trying to increase density rapidly.
The downside here, and the reason why we haven't done anything like ground up construction for an ADU, if anything, we'll convert a ADU that's kind of like 80, 90% of the way there, if that makes sense, right? If somebody went in there and did it and they did some of the work and all we need to do is go in and take it across the finish line and pull the permits and it's not going to be a ton of heavy lifting, then we'll do it. But outside of that, the numbers don't work out here, dude, because unless you're a contractor and you're going to go in there and get your cost to build down to 125 or 150 bucks a square foot, you like, unless you can do that, then it makes it really hard to make that model work. Because even for us, like, we're going to pay $200, $225 a square foot to build something. And the value that you're going to get is only about $225 to $250, maybe $300 a square foot if you're in a really nice area when you go back to resell it or appraise it. But in LA or the Bay or San Diego, you can have those same contractors go build it for $200, $250 a square foot, and you get $800 or $1,000 or wherever, depending on the market. So then it really does make sense. So you see a lot of ADU stuff happening in these more expensive markets where you can control the cost per square foot to build, and you have a much higher resale or valuation price point. Here, I think those numbers are too close to each other, so there's no spread where you can make it unless you can really get your cost for construction down.
I think that's about all. You guys have anything else? We got some announcements.
Let's go through announcements.
Yeah.
Deal Champ Summit, guys. We got to announce it today. Let's go. Baby. I'm stoked. We got Pace Morby headlining the Deal Champ Summit. We got to get our ads out by the 1st. What do we got? 9 days? 10 days?
Yep.
We got Pace Morby coming to headline. We have another insane speaker lineup. I don't know anybody who's had a better speaker lineup than us over the last 3 years. Nobody in the country has had like a more killer speaker lineup than we do. We got Pace Morby, Trevor Mock, Austin Hancock. I'm excited about Dolph DeRue. I really am.
Dolph, man, that guy is a silent killer that many people will know, many people won't know. This guy's doing international investing, like doing big stuff. And when you talk to him, he's just so happy that you would just think he's just a happy-go-lucky guy, and you wouldn't realize that he's doing stuff like that. He doesn't come across as kind of like too big to be around or anything like that. He's just a happy, genuine, good dude.
I love it. But guys, Dean, do you have a slider for this or anything so we can sell some tickets on here?
I don't have a slider, but I could create one.
All right. While we do it, what is it? Dealchamps.com/event?
/summit.
Ooh, dealchamps.com/summit. I struggle with that one. /summit. There we go.
There it is.
Oh.
We only have a certain amount of VIP tickets left. I am getting fire dancers this year. I'm working on
This is true.
some
You got
type
your fire
of
dancers.
aviation. I got my fire dancers this year. I'm seeing if an aviation vehicle is in the budget this year as well. We'll see if I can make it happen. We'll see if the dictator allows it, Jason.
We'll see.
But we'll see. We'll see. I'm so stoked for it. And guys, this is where you guys are going to meet all of your real estate connections. The speakers are going to be great, but the network that's going to be there, that's where you're going to make all your money. That's where I've made my entire network, and I feel like I have a pretty established network in the real estate spaces from going to events.
Yeah.
That's it, man.
I agree.
Anything else, boys? Any other announcements besides our meetup? Jason, do you have a name for the meetup yet?
I don't yet. I'll work on some copy and send it over to you guys, and then we'll announce on social this week. February the 2nd, if you guys are in Fresno,
4th.
California. If you guys are in Fresno, we're going to be doing another meetup. The 4th?
The 4th.
Tuesday the 4th. Excuse me. Tuesday, February the 4th. If you're in Fresno, California, we're going to get together for another free meetup. We're going to have a really cool special guest speaker talking about a lot of cool stuff. So save that on your calendars. We'll get all that stuff posted up.
The most ambiguous announcement I've ever heard in my fucking life.
I got to get the copy approved, and then once copy gets past corporate and corporate signs off, then we're good to go.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will talk to you all next week.
Peace.
Don't forget to hit
Peace.
like and subscribe either.